We're in hard times and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1,000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que en la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.
¿Necesitas un abogado? Detente. No contrates un abogado simplemente por haberlo visto en un anuncio comercial. Lawyers Consumer Directory te ofrece la solución para todo tipo de problemas legales, tales como inmigración, bancarrota, divorcios, entre otros. Y hasta te ayuda a cómo contratar un abogado. No te rompa la cabeza buscando la solución cuando la tienes en tus manos. Adquiérelo gratis, sí, absolutamente gratis en cualquier 7-Eleven.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week, Tuesday night, 9:30, on Bright House Cable. We've been on the air for the past 9 years on Bright House, and we talk about issues that are sensitive to the Hispanic community in Central Florida. I'm here with my co-hosts, who are already started on the, what do you call that stuff, eggnog? This show is airing, I think, on Christmas night. Do you know that?
Oh, nice.
Now, unless we put a log here, nobody's going to watch us. You know, a flaming log? Who's going to watch us on Christmas night?
I think
everybody's going to be asleep after eating all that good food. They're not going to be watching us.
I think so.
You think so?
Of course. Why not? While they're waiting for Santa.
You know something? I didn't realize. They'd watch you. You're absolutely right. For all of your words of wisdom.
I doubt that.
So you want to get serious, or you just want to play around? You want to talk a little bit about something that's
endearing?
I don't know. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on.
I have a Santa
Let's close off the year. Let's talk about what we didn't like about the year. Okay, because this is closing off the year. What didn't you like about the year?
Oh, well,
about this whole year?
Foreclosure. I mean, that's obvious.
Okay, so tell me about it. What happened?
What happened is that...
Are you out on the street or what?
No, thank goodness I'm not. But we have 10,000 children homeless in Central Florida. So, you know, for me to know that was the reason for foreclosures, and you know, the bank's doing some illegal behavior and the civil court's doing illegal behavior. You know, it all comes down to, we have 10,000 kids on the street in Central Florida.
I think there are about 2,500 to 3,000 in Seminole County. I called up Seminole County something or other that's attached to the school system. I spoke to a lady over there. She said there's about 3,000 kids that are homeless that they know about.
That they know about.
That they clock them because they go to school every day. And they have them either in foster care, or they have them and their parents living in hotels that, a hotel. I mean, they're paying, the state is paying for a hotel. A hotel's got to be more expensive than paying 3 mortgages.
Well, what's ridiculous is that you've had all these houses vacant. They've been vacant for 2, 3, 4 years, and the banks they're not in the rental business, so they're just sitting vacant. You know, why can't the government somehow, since the banks work so well with the government, why don't they just somehow work it out where they can put them in a nice home?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of houses available, or the banks can do a month-to-month lease.
Absolutely.
You know,
well, they can maintain the properties. I mean, you know, everyone gripes, everybody feels like they're entitled.
But this is America. They don't do things like that. You know what I mean? It has to be an act of Congress. Then the lobbyists have to go in and get paid. And then you
But
have
it's okay to pay someone a hotel that
well,
owns a hotel.
Let me finish. There's a line. You got the lobbyists, and then the lobbyists have to donate money to the campaign coffers of the elected officials so that they can introduce the bill, and then they have to have a commission put together to study the bill, and they got to pay for that. And by that time, you know, the kid's already 19 years old and he moved out and went to the Army.
Oh, sure, they're out killing people.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
same thing, you know, taking guns and going into
Oh,
school.
we're going into the gun thing now?
Well, and I wasn't going to go into the
Okay,
gun
foreclosures.
thing. Foreclosures. for me.
Foreclosures, we are the #1 state in the United States on foreclosure as of last month. Okay? We are #1. No other state has more foreclosures than Florida. That tells you about the state economy in Florida. And on top of that, it is an average of 59,000 homes are foreclosed on every single month. That's like 20,000 homes in Florida. 20,000 homes a month, a week.
A week, yeah.
A week get foreclosed on.
Yeah.
The banks are having a good time.
They're having a great time. They make up to 300% profit. I mean, why not?
Okay, so
Why
the
not?
bad guy in the close of the year, America's worst citizens are the banks, corporate citizens are the banks.
Absolutely.
Absolute horror show, vampires.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's move on. What else do you want to talk about? So we give the Vampire Award for 2012 to Bank America. Who else?
I call them the banksters.
Okay, but-
Banksters, all the
okay.
banks.
But who are the banks that are worse?
You got Bank of America, Wells Fargo. I mean, HSBC was just fined $1.9 billion from the government for, you know, harboring money and helping
Bank
the
of America got fined a whole bunch of
Well,
money
for
too.
drug cartels, Syria, Libya, you know, helping them get their guns to, you know, to the Muslims, to
They're not all bad.
terrorists.
It was just
What?
a business thing.
That's just business?
It's just business.
Sure.
I don't
Yeah,
know
let's
why
just go ahead.
Did you
Let's
see-
go ahead and give money to the terrorists.
Did
That
you see the
works.
movie Taken?
Yes, I have
Okay,
seen it.
remember what the guy said when when the hero throws him into the elevator and he's about to shoot him? He says, "Don't take it wrong, it was just business." And then he shoots him.
Sure.
Just business.
Sure.
My beef for the year would be the political system, the failure of it. I mean, the complete meltdown of the party system.
I think I need a pill. I need an aspirin. I need something to thin my blood.
No, last time.
Because he is, I can't believe it. This man who is left about as far as you can get in the universe, and he is Obama all the way, has just criticized the head of the political system of the United States of America.
No, I didn't say. I said both
Oh,
parties.
here we get the disclaimers.
But he said both parties.
I
In all
said
fairness, he
both.
said both.
Yeah, but
that
Obama's the guy in
includes-
charge.
Yeah, but
Both parties have shown their inability to be positive, to be common sense driven. This has been a system about money, straight up cash and carry. It's the worst of the political system in the history of the United States. We cannot afford to have business as usual as they tinker around with the government, which they still are tinkering at this hour as we approach the cliff or the curb or whatever you want to call it.
Jose, I about 3 months ago, I said that most of the Congress is guilty of treason against
Absolutely.
they get away with it, and they do get away with it, and they have been getting away with it for over a decade, because everything that's happening now started when they started hitting the Social Security money.
Right.
Social Security fund is going bankrupt. Why? Because these politicians were tapping into that to pay for other stuff that wasn't necessary, that lobbyists wanted things built and all that.
Right.
We have an immoral value system in the United States Congress, and corrupt to some extent.
Right.
And what happens is when there is corruption, it's slapped on the wrist. It's not really taken seriously because it's one of their own.
Well, good old boy system.
And everybody's cooperating. If you give me your vote on this, I'll give you my vote on that.
Right.
Instead of working for the American people.
Well, I think that's changed. I mean, it's obvious it's changed that you're not working for the American people.
No,
I mean,
none
they're
of
really
them.
not.
They're working for
They're
themselves.
working for
Yeah.
themselves and
Yeah.
what's best interest for them.
Right. I mean, you could tell that with the Susan Rice non-nominee type thing. where-
Okay, how do you feel about that?
I think it was wrong. I think she should have given her day out there, because she's totally qualified to be the Secretary of State.
And you don't think there's a gap there in credibility for some people? I mean,
No, she
even
went
a
out- she
few
went out-
Democrats came out and
She
said that
went
there's a
out-
gap there.
Democrats ain't got no ball. Democrats don't have any backbone. Okay.
Oh, I knew it was about to come out of that mouth.
Democrats lack backbone because they're looking for an easy way out. And that's one of the problems with the Democratic Party. It's always the easy way. If anything's difficult, they go, "Oh no, I can't." The melting kind of action stuff. And so that's what you see.
But all the
Democrats.
politicians do that.
No, Democrats. It would seem right in the last decade, you will find Republicans having a more ballsy kind of attitude, more direct, in your face, you know, and so what if I'm in your face kind of thing.
Okay, so we've come to the conclusion. Is there any good congressman that you can think of, or is there any good senator that you can think of that you can say, this guy really works for the people?
Dead silence.
Dead silence.
Dead silence.
That's hard. I mean,
Dead silence.
Now,
well, it's so money driven, though. I mean, you're not even getting people that have really worked hard and then they run for office. I mean, most people getting elected today, they're loaded with money. It's like they come from money. They didn't really go out and work and, you know, work 2 or 3 jobs to make sure their kids have clothing and food and, you know, going to good schools. I mean, look at them. They're all very much of wealth.
Well,
I mean, what have they
What
learned?
about your friend John McCain? What a wonderful individual he is.
I think John McCain, on the Republican side, rates in the top 90%. Now, that's not to say that the entire 100% is in the bottom 10%. Yeah, I'm going to qualify that because you know, this whole thing that you know they're trying to pass the bill and all this. All these guys are reaping with money. They don't want to get hit with a tax, so you know, because all these elected officials are all rich. You know, that's why they get into politics, to get rich. So you know, the tax thing is being held up because they don't want to tax themselves.
Well, I heard there was some movement today. Boner indicated that I think you guys pronounce it Boehner, but it's actually spelled Boner. That they're willing to look at giving the 98% their tax break, permanent tax break. However, in return, they only want like the complete to abolish Medicare altogether.
I thought they wanted to re-elect Romney.
But the bottom line, I mean, if you think about it, these big corporations that, you know, they're offshoring trillions of dollars. They're doing, you know, outsourcing to other, you know, countries that has really harmed our country. But wait a minute.
I'll tell you where the real problem is.
Here's what I think they should do. You know, if these corporations choose to offshore their money, then you know what? You pay a higher tax bracket. If you want to go out and hire someone in India because you want the low pay scale, then you know what? You're going to get taxed higher. Make them come back and put the money back in the United States and make them make jobs for Americans. Why do we allow these corporations to make so much money? Why?
Because it's a free economic system and they're allowed to do that. You can't change the system. You know, you cannot change the system.
But so you can tax them. You can tax them higher.
You can tax them, and they'll just do more. They'll take more out of the United States if you tax them higher.
If you penalize
Listen, all you have to do, they can go to New Zealand. They're not paying any corporate taxes at all. Move your corporate headquarters to New Zealand. They don't have a corporation. Doesn't have to.
But they still run a business here.
Listen,
they still have a
they
business
sell
here.
products here.
Yeah.
If they want to close their corporate papers in the United States, they can do it, and they can move to a country that's more beneficial to them. I mean, they've moved their bank accounts already. So what is it?
Moved their bank accounts. They moved them just to get them offshore.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Now, what is it to close a corporate paper and say, okay, we're no longer a U.S.-based corporation, we're moving to New Zealand. We don't pay anything. They can do that in a snap. Yeah, you think anybody's going to care? The people in China who is the next big market, or Brazil, they don't care. They don't care. They'll move out. You know? Right. Don't you move out of a bad neighborhood?
Yeah, but I mean, if the
rent's too high, don't you move out?
If the company is here and your products are here.
If you have a house and you're paying, and you can go somewhere else and pay less and have a good life, wouldn't you? I mean, you move.
I don't know.
You move. Corporations can just close down and move. They can move out of the United States.
So it's just easy to get citizenship in other countries?
Listen, you got Best Buy closed 1,200 stores in the United States, right?
Okay.
This year, they opened up 1,000 stores in China. They just switched. So what are they going to be here for? All their stores are going over there. They just move.
I don't know. I just think people who make loads of money should have to pay higher taxes.
They should pay fair taxes. I agree with you.
And I think they should. And I think it's mandated they give more to the community.
Okay, so is that our next? So the United States Congress is our second vampire award. Okay, that are sucking the American blood out of the American people.
There you go. Got it.
Okay, so now we got the banks and we got the politics. What a mix! Okay, they're really together. Do we have any local politicians like that?
Rick Scott?
Rick Scott.
Wow.
I love Rick Scott.
What a joke.
Really?
He's up
Rick
for
Scott?
re-election this year.
Oh, he's
Next
not
year
going to
coming
get
up.
reelected. No way. No way.
Landslide victory.
No, oh.
All right, we're going to see.
The guy's
we
done
will see.
so much for us.
What else we got coming down the pike? Okay, who's the next vampire award? Anybody
I have no
else?
idea.
Well, yeah, the gun lobbyist will probably be the next.
NRA?
The NRA.
You know something? Oh, you want to talk about the gun thing a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your take?
I'm taking that we have to revamp some of our laws, and that it's not necessary to have a fully engaged combat weapon to go to the store with. I might be wrong. 7-Eleven has changed over the years, but I'm thinking that you don't.
Do you know what? Listen,
That was a good one.
do you know what the #1 risk job in America is?
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
I believe it.
So
Okay, the #1 worst job in America for being attacked
right,
and being shot?
working for you.
No, 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven.
Well, I think there's a lot. I mean, if
Convenience stores. But I don't want
I-
to point to 7-Eleven as a negative place because they've got nice stores, but they're very easy targets.
Well, they're
because
floating the idea now that let's arm the people in school. You know, so the cafeteria worker should, the one that has a language barrier.
Okay,
should-
there was a
should
guy.
carry a-
Let me tell you something. They interviewed a gentleman who said if that principal had a weapon available,
Right.
she'd be alive today, and that gunman never would have gotten to the kids. If
First
she
of
had a
all, what
weapon.
about the security? Where was the security? What kind of security?
Well, the school was closed and it was locked. The doors were locked. He broke in. He
Yeah,
literally
I mean,
broke in.
The bottom line is,
Okay?
okay, let's just say this: it's not guns; it's people killing people.
That'll never stop.
Okay, it will never stop.
No,
But what
you
could,
will always have the crazy person.
But you always have the crazy people. But what could have happened is, if you've listened to any of the stories, there was a teacher who went and reported to her supervisor that she felt there was something wrong with this child. She was totally ignored. She felt helpless. She didn't have anyone she could go talk to.
Right.
Why can't we implement programs that, if teachers feel that there's something wrong with a child, why can't they go to someone and say, I'm not feeling too good about this kid, or doctors?
Because they feel
I
that's
tell you why.
profiling.
I tell you why.
It's not
you know
profiling.
Why? No, you
I
know
disagree
why?
with that.
Because it's money. It's
We throw
all
money
about-
around already like it's
all
water.
about
What does it
money.
matter?
We're going to do a show. I did some research on students with ADHD.
Right.
Okay, I did a good research paper on it, and I found gaps in the processing of information. Okay, identifying students and the level of ability for them to function. Tremendous gaps. I found that a teacher will mark a student to have severe ADHD. Okay, she marks it on a paper. That student is taken to a psychiatrist. Okay, and I have actual test cases,
Right.
and the psychiatrist literally interviewed the mother for less than 3 minutes, gave him a prescription, and sent them off.
Well, and that's another issue we have in this
So
country.
we have drugs. The kids are all on drugs.
Exactly, and that's a whole
You know,
other issue.
and you know what I brought up the issue about cultural differences. In other words, they may have a student that's being identified as ADHD, but it might be a cultural difference. Okay, because of climate, because of food consumption, the type of food a kid eats.
Sure.
I mean, in the Hispanic community, hey, you want to eat 3 candy bars before you go to school? Sure, here's 5. And the kids all juiced up on sugar.
Right.
Because of the diet. Sugar is part of la caña. In the Spanish countries that are Caribbean,
So you're saying
caña is a
kids
major
from-
source of food for kids, and that's
And the
sugar
bottom
cane.
line,
It's
if
sugar cane.
people really want to get a gun, just like if they really want to get drugs, they're going to
It's
find
going to
it.
happen.
It's going to happen.
You know,
You're
and I
not
know
gonna be
that
able to
I
stop
can
that.
leave here right now and be back in an hour,
Right.
and I can buy a gun on the streets of Orlando.
Absolutely.
We're not talking about your backyard.
No, we're not talking about my backyard. We're talking about
Any
Orlando's
backyard.
You can buy a gun, and I'm talking about not an hour drive. I'm talking about 12-minute drive, 5-minute drive, 15-minute drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then maybe 10 minutes to find the deal and do the deal.
We're also talking about a country, the United States, that 38 people a day are shot by guns or killed
that's
by
not-
guns.
you know something?
Okay, but no, we're not looking at a bigger problem. I mean, we have to
The
find a
problem
way.
is not the guns.
We have to find a way to make it more difficult for people to buy guns that are not capable of handling the
But
responsibility.
that has to do with mental illness.
That
That
is
has to
mental
do with mental capability and
And we also have to have the
responsibility.
securities in schools. They have to be beefed up.
Okay,
There's
but why can't
practically
hold on,
no
boys.
security.
Can I ask you something? There's countries.
Not complicated, because I'm not, you know.
Here's countries. Here's countries. What is it? Is it Switzerland, Finland? One of these countries that they allow like ex-military. Let's say you served in the military.
Right.
As long as they pass these tests and everything, they're allowed to actually wear a concealed weapon. And if something does happen, they're allowed to bring out a gun and do what they have
Well,
to do.
they have that in Florida.
No, there's not military walking around with
In the
guns.
schools? You mean in
that
schools?
can actually not in schools, but I mean just walking around in general. And they
Listen,
have like
let
We
me
have
tell
a
you.
million guns in
Listen,
Florida.
you can have a concealed weapon permit on you, and if you see a bank getting robbed, someone being stabbed, or someone being held up, you can use your weapon. Okay?
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Under the stand your ground law.
Understand? You're preventing a felony in action. Okay? There was that guy who was living. Remember the guy who was living next door, and he saw his neighbor's house being robbed, and he went in there and he shot the two guys dead. He left his house, went into the other house,
After the
and he
police
shot them dead.
after the police told him not to do that,
And he still did it. And he still did it.
Okay.
And he got off.
he should have been charged.
Well, I didn't realize that you actually
I
couldn't
think- I
step
think-
in.
They should have been charged.
All I'm saying, like at the movie theater, if there would have been one person in that movie theater that had a concealed
Let me tell
weapon
you
that
something.
could have shot someone, that kid wouldn't
You
have
want to
done
know
that.
something? I was going to bring that up. I'm glad you brought it up. That guy went to 3 movie theaters. Okay? And he picked the final movie theater, and the one that he went into, because there was a sign on the doors saying no concealed weapons permitted. Okay? He went to 2 theaters, and that was on CNN. In fact,
Oh,
I heard
really?
it this morning because they were talking about the Connecticut situation.
Right.
And he literally went to 3 theaters.
Until he found one that he
And
knew.
until he found one that didn't have it, that had the signage, no guns permitted, no concealed weapons permitted, and he went in there. He knew that that was a turkey shoot. Okay.
Right.
Now, if you go into a theater in Orlando, I would think somewhere in Orlando, I would think that out of 400 people, you're going to have at least.
One person.
No, you're going to have more than one person.
At least one.
No, you're going to have more than one person. You're going to have 10 people
Yeah.
that have weapons on them, especially now, you know.
Yeah.
Even before that, you would have 10 people with concealed weapons on them,
Yeah.
you know. Now, that movie theater has probably spiked those numbers up tremendously.
Yeah.
But, you know, the reality is that there are crazy people, and I'm using the word crazy, but there are people with mental illness, okay, that are unstable, and they have access to weapons that have nothing to do with the legal process of getting a weapon.
No,
And you're
they
right.
get it anyway.
I think you're right. I think that the process of getting a weapon, because I've been through that process, is weak, okay, very weak. And I think that almost anybody can get a weapon in the state of Florida. I think that has to be tightened up, okay? Even the training process is very weak. I think all of that has to be tightened up. But nevertheless, a person who, and if you make guns illegal, all you're doing is you can do the same thing with guns that you do with drugs.
That's right.
They're
It's
going to
not
come
gonna
over
work.
you're going to have
Not gonna-
an underground market for weapons
Oh,
out of Mexico.
the criminals are waiting for that to happen in this
Yeah.
state. They're waiting because they'll make millions and millions of dollars.
Every state in this country that has a handgun law, a concealed weapon law, crime, felonies, and murders went down between 20 and 40%. Every one, because the guy knows he's gonna. And it was Harvard. Was it Harvard? One of the major universities did a survey with felons in a prison, and they asked them, would you go and more likely to commit a crime in a state that has a right to gun law? And they said no, because they don't know if they're going to get shot back.
Right.
They don't want to get shot. They want to dominate. They want to control. They want to
Right.
get away with somebody's
Right.
money. So why should they go into a situation where they think the guy's going to have a gun?
Right.
I mean, that's on TV all the time. You see people shooting back, and
But people were taking the Second Amendment, which was to carry guns for militia purposes, to privately own things. And of course, there's the argument that the reason they need the high-power rifles is to use against the government itself, which they fear will come in their black helicopters and
well, they ain't going to win that game.
helmets. And
They're not going to win that one. You know, but you take situations like what happened in New York, where there were no police, there was no electricity, there was no running water. Society collapsed for more than 3 weeks. Okay, people needed weapons to protect their homes. The
Yeah.
cops weren't there, and since you didn't have telephones, you know, some of the cell phone towers were out.
Right, right.
People had to protect their homes. In that particular case, the guy who had that military-style rifle, okay, nobody's going to bother him if he's sitting in front of his house with that on his porch. That's a reality. The reality is that there are places like in New Orleans and now in New York City where society will break down and an average citizen in his home has no source of protection because the cops are gone. There's nobody there but him, okay? And there are looters going through, looting the houses for jewelry and for stuff, you know? So what are you going to do?
I say have guns.
So maybe we have fire extinguishers in the home. We'll just have one with an AK rifle in case break if an emergency.
No, I got a better idea. You put landmines in your lawn that you can activate from inside the house.
You better turn them off for Santa.
Yeah, oh yeah, well Santa's I don't know.
Don't want Santa
may get mugged this year on the way down, the way things are going, you know?
Poor Santa.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, the gun thing, you know, I think everybody has the right to carry, but I think you're right. I think they got to really, really tighten up the situation on who to give a gun to.
And the amount of rounds
now, there's the gun show thing, right? That somebody can walk into a gun show. They got to close that up. There's got to be a 3-day or 5-day or whatever it is on that.
Wait period.
Now, don't forget that when you buy a gun in the state of Florida, there's an FBI check. Okay, that FBI check can happen in 15 minutes. Okay, you can go into Gander and buy a gun in 15 minutes. Literally, you go in, I want a gun, they run it through, you're clean. Now, that has nothing to do with your mental state. Right. You know what I mean? And the other problem that you run to, and it's a big problem, is that your mental state last year may not be the same as your mental state this year.
I've seen that.
Your house is foreclosed on. Your wife kicked you out. Yeah. You lost your kids, and all of a sudden,
it's true.
You know?
But that's because I think people need to get more active, more involved. You see people going through a hard time. I think you step in and you help, or you get them help. I don't know.
Listen, we're out of time. All right, so we got the major vampires, the banks and the Congress of the United States sucking the American people dry.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is Danny Ramos. Have a happy New Year. We'll see you next year if we're here. We make it by Friday, December 21st. According to the Mayan calendar, we're all going to be dust. But if this show airs, you know we got by. Okay? We'll see you next week. We're in hard times and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1,000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que en la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.
¿Necesitas un abogado? Detente. No contrates un abogado simplemente por haberlo visto en un anuncio comercial. Lawyers Consumer Directory te ofrece la solución para todo tipo de problemas legales, tales como inmigración, bancarrota, divorcios, entre otros. Y hasta te ayuda a cómo contratar un abogado. No te rompa la cabeza buscando la solución cuando la tienes en tus manos. Adquiérelo gratis, sí, absolutamente gratis en cualquier 7-Eleven.